Thank you, Tim, for that, and to the fellow panelists. We have a closing remark now. Virraj is a very talented entrepreneur. He is also a great representative for the booming fintech sector here in London. And I guess he also encompasses many of the aspects we have discussed here today. And he's also been very supportive, opening his network to also contributing panelists and also the keynote speaker today. So, Virraj, the scene is yours.
Thanks, Jatan. I hope I can live up to the introduction. I do realise that I'm the last thing standing between a bit of lunch outside and the end of the conference, so I'll try and keep this brief. We've heard today from fintechs, established banks, NGOs, investors, getting a number of different opinions about the challenges and the issues around financial exclusion. And I think what is clear to me is that this is a massive challenge, and there is a job for all of us to do if we're going to overcome this challenge. The three key takeaways for me from today's discussions and panels is that financial exclusion is a serious problem. We've got a banking system which is not accessible to everybody, and consumers are not part of that financial system. That is completely unacceptable. So that is the first key takeaway. The second is around technology and mobile, and there was a lot of discussion about, is that the right way, and is that the solution to moving to overcoming the challenge of financial exclusion? Now, I think that it's quite clear from today's discussion that it is going to play a core role in helping us overcome that. And the third key takeaway was around identity and verification. I think it's been a theme that has constantly come up in pretty much every single panel. One of the biggest challenges is how do we ID consumers or people who are new into the country to give them access to financial services products. We've heard a lot of numbers being passed around today, but what is clear is the numbers are very big. 2 billion people in the world are unbanked. A further 2 billion people in the world are underserved. So there's a 4 billion adult consumer market here for us to go after. And one of the things that I find most interesting in my discussion, especially with customers of Pockit, is that their first problem when it comes to financial exclusion is, I need a way to deposit my money and I need a way to transact. That's their first major problem. That's where we step in and we help them solve that problem. But as you get to talk to them a bit more, and as they've gone on to sort of be in a part of our community, they're coming onto a journey, you realize that that's just the start of their financial challenges and problems. They're completely underserved across the financial services spectrum. So they will still use Western Union and MoneyGram to send money home. They will not have a credit profile. They will not be able to borrow money. They've never had an insurance product. They've never had a savings product. The list goes on. So they're completely underserved, which means that there's a very greenfield group of consumers here who have not been serviced by traditional financial services players. And there is an opportunity for people like us in the room, the entrepreneurs amongst us, to have a massive sustainable, profitable business which services these consumers. And I think that the people who are dedicated to this cause in this room will be able to build those successful businesses which are not only profitable but also that have a massive social impact. The opportunity is really there for the taking. The people who have, or the companies who have tried to service this group of consumers in the past have done it in predatory ways. We've seen it in the payday lending space until the FCA intervention came into play to put a cap on the interest that could be charged. We've seen it with offline remittance providers, and we've seen it with TV channels selling high interest loans to buy white good products. The reality is that it's expensive to be poor, and we've talked a lot about the poverty premium today. So I think the key is, how does the private sector start to think about innovative, smart ways of providing a solution to financial exclusion which is commercially viable yet solves the problems that these consumers are facing. And with that in mind, there were sort of three factors that I felt really resonate with me around what people like ourselves and other businesses in this room need to do and need to focus on to deliver a solution. So the first is about understanding the financially underserved customer as much as you possibly can. This customer is completely different to any one of us, any normal middle-class served consumer. They will live their lives differently. They will budget differently. They will manage their money in a completely different way to the way we do it. And most importantly, they will trust people in a completely different way to the way we trust. And we've heard people talking about this throughout the course of the day, that there is a stigma about going into bank branches. There is, they always feel like they're being picked on. Things always go wrong. So there's a completely different mindset here. And one of the things that we've spent a lot of our time doing, and we continue to do so, is really understanding this customer. We're going and spending days out with our customer. We go and visit their homes. We go and understand what do they do for their work. You really have to get that deep into this customer's life to understand how they do things in a different way. And you won't really be able to win in this space unless you do that. And I think the example that I alluded to on the panel earlier about the marketing channel, which we recently carried out, is 50% of applicants didn't even have an email address to sign up with. That tells you the type of space that we're playing in and the type of product delivery that needs to be thought about. The second factor that I came up with is around building a proposition that is focused around this customer. So the key around this is building a proposition that is simple to understand. We at Pockit have been very dedicated to a very simple pricing proposition that does not follow financial services pricing. It's about retail pricing, because that's what consumers understand. So everything we do is either 99p or free. You don't have a consumer who's trying to figure out, what's the percentage, what's the monthly fee, how am I going to pay back? It's really about simplicity. So keeping the proposition simple is massively important. I think the example of Oakham that we heard earlier today was a very exciting one, and it's another business in this space that's really thinking about the delivery of the product and keeping the service simple. So it's 22 branches across the UK. They're not using credit scoring. They're thinking about things in a different way that fits this customer demographic. So I think these are the types of examples of well thought out propositions. And the final factor, the third factor for me, is around financial education. We've spoken about this a lot today. I think that it is one of the most underplayed factors in us solving this challenge. I think you've only just started to see financial management come into the school curriculum. It still has a long way to go before it becomes widespread. But I think there are some people that we can learn from. There's a company who some of you may or may not know of in the US called LendUp, which provides payday loans, again, to underserved, unbanked consumers. One of the core parts of their proposition is a financial education tool. So you go through that and you can build up your credit, you can build up your profile by participating in online financial education courses. And I think that that's something that we as an industry really need to think about and really need to start thinking about how we implement, so that we can help our customers not just get onto the ladder and access to the system, but to keep climbing up the ladder. So I think whilst I've been talking a lot about what the fintech businesses can do and what the private sector can do, I don't think that this removes any responsibility from government. I think we need government to help us. We need the financial system to be opened up, especially around the payments infrastructure. We need the right regulatory environment so that there is the ability for the smaller businesses and the growing fintech businesses to innovate and to build the solutions that these customers need. And I think there is a responsibility for all of us in this room to secure the support of our colleagues at HMT and at DWP to make sure that they're really supporting what we're trying to do and what the problem we're trying to solve. I'd like to finish off by thanking Bloomberg and Concentric for hosting what I think has been a great event. I think we've had 3 really stimulating panels with amazing panelists. So also a big thank you to all the panelists who participated, notably Baroness Philippa Stroud. I hope a lot of you were in the room for that keynote because it was very inspiring and very thought-provoking. So thank you very much. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being a great audience.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I'm just going to extend some further thank yous to Chris and his team at Bloomberg, to the panelists and the moderators. And it was great to see so many familiar faces here today as well. Chris and we are off to Scandinavia next week for another part of the series. So we are in Oslo next Wednesday and in Copenhagen next Thursday to explore some what is happening in that region. But we return here with another event in September. So thank you for all coming here today. Thank you very much.